Okay, this one's going. Give you a clap. This one is going. Whew. Hello and welcome to Piano Shack with me, Woody. Today I thought you might enjoy a 2-month or 3 months, probably 2 months review of the Yamaha DGX, which I have here in all its glory in front of me. Been playing it pretty much every day now. This has taken over to be my main weapon of choice for practicing and just goofing around and having fun. So yeah, I've been playing it for an hour or so pretty much every day. So gotten to know it quite well. And remember, I'm coming to this, which is a budget arranger keyboard in a piano format. I'm coming to this directly after reviewing the Yamaha GX 2, Yamaha PSR SX900, the flagship PSRs, and also the Korg PA5X. So inevitably, I'll be drawing some comparisons to those flagship instruments, because it's interesting to know what you get for all the extra money of something like a GX 2. And it is very warm here in Sweden at the moment, and in my studio it's roasting, so apologies for this sweaty face. I should really have the Oscar Peterson handkerchief, if only I could play like him. I certainly can sweat like him. Well, maybe not quite as much as him. Let's talk about the form factor and design. It's a large instrument, it's a heavy instrument, but it's, possible to manhandle it around the studio by yourself. But it does take up quite a bit of space and it's quite imposing as well. So that's something you need to consider because it's a full 88 note weighted piano action. So yeah, it does take the sort of expected amount of space for that. I've left out and that was a strange and long-winded way of saying it's huge. It reminds me of a boat, or more correctly, a Malibu surfboard in this white decor, which I do quite like. Keyboard is the tried and tested Yamaha GX action. It's been on many digital pianos over the years from Yamaha. It was on my P121 that I had before. Stood the test of time, super durable, very pleasant to play, certainly good enough for a player of my caliber. I'm not feeling in any way that the action is holding me back at all or hindering my technique, even though it's one of the cheapest weighted actions that Yamaha have to offer. I really enjoy playing this. It feels solid, robust and rugged. The keys don't feel lightweight and hollow or flimsy in any way whatsoever. Totally enjoying the action. Definitely. A lot of me have been asking about the amplifiers and speakers. If I like them, if I think they're good enough. Short answer, yes, fantastic. The long answer is that there is plenty of bass, punch and volume. When I'm playing here in this room, you can see roughly how big it is. The volume goes from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And I usually have it about 11 o'clock, so not even halfway. So there's tons of headroom. It's plenty loud enough. Very clear, crystal clear, good bass. One criticism I may have is that when you're playing drums, it can be a little bit harsh on the hi-hats and the cymbals, but I'm really nitpicking there. And having speakers is a really wonderful thing, I've come to learn. Putting headphones on just isolates you from the instrument, the room and your surroundings. But put the speakers on, you just hear the sound filling up the room exactly like a real acoustic piano would, and you feel the vibrations of the sounds through your fingertips, which is also extra realism. Love it. Highly recommend everybody has a digital instrument with built-in speakers, well, especially a piano, or failing that even better, a real piano, of course, but I wouldn't be able to carry one up the steps here. Okay, there are some features on this that you don't get on those flagship arrangers that I mentioned. There's a piano room. You press this piano-shaped button here. Yeah, it looks actually, the button is shaped like the lid of a grand piano. You press that, it switches everything off and focuses all of the CPU power just on the realism of the piano sounds. And that means it gives you all of the physical modeling. It still samples, but additional physical modeling to simulate, for example, string resonances. And it just sounds fantastic. It is better than the regular sampled pianos you get on here, but you can't use this piano together with the styles and accompaniment. It's just for solo use. Sounds really nice. You can also tweak the piano in interesting ways, like raising the lid. And there are also 3 or 4 different piano models to choose from. Really nice feature. I find myself using it all the time when I'm doing my serious jazz practicing, which doesn't happen very often. But I love this feature. I'm going to call this the Biscuit Beat. Another piano-related feature, because this is a portable grand, that's how Yamaha market it. So another piano-related feature is a special bank, a whole category of just piano accompaniments. Now, you're not hearing this in glorious quality at the moment, because I haven't actually connected it to the PC. You'll hear it over my lav, just to get an idea of what I'm talking about. There's about 30 of them. They're actually pretty cool. Talking of the styles then, well, it's not a Genos 2. It's not a Korg PA5X, obviously, but the styles sound 95% there to my ears. 95% is good. Yeah, they sound absolutely fabulous. I just can't really get over how good these styles sound. Definitely on par with the Genos. I mean, I haven't compared them back to back, and I'm probably losing my credibility here, but I think I'm going to write an angry comment. In actual use, in a playing situation, I can't really hear a lot of difference. However, there are much fewer of them. The Genos gives you 800 styles. The Korg PA I had was 600 or something. This is more like 200, and it is very noticeable actually. You'd think 200 was more than enough, but if you go into some categories, for example, EDM and dance, instead of having 40 styles like you might get on the Genos, you get 5 So certainly in some categories it's a little bit light on styles, but I suppose the advantage is you can get to know and learn the styles that are on here and get the best out of them, I suppose, since limitations can be a creative thing. The same thing goes for the sounds, or voices, perhaps Yamaha call them, your pianos, saxophones, guitars, flutes, orchestral sounds. Absolutely superb. Yep, to me, on casual use, casual playing, without doing back-to-back comparisons, just as satisfying to play as the flagship arranges. This guy is a real noob. But again, we are limited on the number of sounds. It's actually quite shocking. You go into the Genos and you might get 10 pages of synth basses, whereas here you get 1 page. Each page has 10 sounds. But again, it's enough. How many synth basses do you really need? Why did he upload this rubbish? Well, let's talk about the user interface, because this is where I feel a lot of the corners have been cut. Is that the right way of saying it? This is where a lot of features have been cut out, in any case, to differentiate between this and the more expensive models. But they've also added a lot more buttons in that you don't get on the Genos. The thing is, this doesn't have a touchscreen. It doesn't have the big touchscreen of the Genos. It's actually a very small screen. It's about, there's my phone. It's about that big. But since it's not touch sensitive, they've added a lot more buttons instead. So you get lots of buttons below the screen, and something you don't get on the arrangers, the flagships, is the voice category buttons and the style category buttons. All of those are just on the touch screen, but here we get dedicated buttons for them. Pretty cool. But it's not all great, because we only get 1 intro button and 1 outro button, whereas the flagships have 3 of each. The frustrating thing is there are 3 intros and 3 outros with different sort of complexities, but you can't access them from the front panel. You have to actually go in, edit the style, change the intro or the outro, and then save it as a new style. But who can be bothered to do that? Well, not me anyway. Fortunately, I find the default intros and outros to be quite tasteful and of a good length, so I didn't need to get out the Rubik's Cube whilst the intro was playing. Another thing, this does have the OneTouch settings, so it will choose the sounds for you for each variation, but it lacks the 4 buttons to quickly select which OTS sound you want to play. But they are linked to the variations, but you don't have manual control over them, if you see what I mean. We also only get 4 registration memories on the front panel. You can store banks of them, but only 4 are available here to you for immediate access, whereas the Genos had 10. And more is better. Absolutely no real-time control knobs. We don't get any faders or sliders for adjusting the volumes of the parts, or the filter cutoff on a synthesizer sound, for example. We just get this little plasticky pitch bend thing here on the left, which is okay, but no modulation wheel either, so pretty stripped back really. But this is a piano after all. Okay, a few disappointments. I knew about this going into this, so not really a disappointment, but it's something to be aware of. The outputs are extremely limited. There's no MIDI out on the DIN sockets. There's no line outputs either, just a headphone out that you can use as a line output, but I don't really feel that's very professional. Everything is done over USB. That's the idea with this. I've got it connected via one USB cable to my computer at the moment, and that actually works flawlessly for transmitting and receiving MIDI and transmitting and receiving audio as well. So it's very easy actually to do a recording of this. Just connect it via USB to the PC and you have a digital recording that sounds absolutely super. You've heard some of my demos by now, I hope. So for home use, I haven't really found the lack of line outs to be an issue, unless I want to have some fun and connect this up to a looper pedal, for example. It's not really much good for that. Be a bit careful if you're intending to use this for professional live use on a stage, for example. Another small annoyance is that you don't get any spacing in between the style performance buttons. On the Genos, for example, and the PSR arrangers, you got a little space between the intro buttons and the variation buttons, the break and the outro, so it was easy to hit them in the heat of a moment during a performance. On this thing, unfortunately, they're all squashed together, but there are ways to fix that. Bugger off! A disappointment I had with this actually, one of the major disappointments so far, is that I wanted to use this as a practice tool. I wanted to be able to use the sequencer to record, say, the verse of Bruce Hornsby the way it is, 16 bars, whatever it is, loop that and then play along with it, perhaps changing the accompaniments, triggering fills whenever I want to, but just like record the chords and have it loop. But that's not possible to do with this. I did check the manual before I bought it, and it appeared to be possible because you can loop a song or loop a section of a song, like a MIDI song that you've recorded. But Yamaha, in their infinite wisdom, maybe there's a good reason for this, someone might like this feature, but they decided to add, every time the phrase loops round, add a pause and a 1-bar count-in. So you can't just loop the song and play along with it. Real bummer. So if you do want to practice along with the way it is, you'll just have to record 10 verses. Bit tedious, perhaps. That's just me. I guess probably most people won't find that to be much of an issue, but I had a particular use case that I wanted to use this for. Yeah, that's what a use case is, and I was a bit disappointed I couldn't do it. I like the fact that it's not a touchscreen. You get physical buttons underneath, instead of having to prod at the Genos screen, for example, at a little touch target to adjust the volume or drag a virtual slider on the screen. Get buttons here underneath the screen. I can just press up and down to raise a fader up and down and adjust the volume of a style part. It works actually a lot better. Remember when we did the unboxing, I was staggered what good value this is, and I stand by that today. And even more so perhaps after spending some time with it. Yeah, remember your Genos 2's PA5X, that's a $5,000 keyboard. This instrument, $850, which still surprises me. The bang for the buck on this thing is absolutely staggering, and I can highly recommend it if you're thinking about getting into a range of keyboards and are on a bit of a budget. A friendly reminder, it cost me a lot of money. Yeah, I bought this with my own money, by the way, in case you were wondering. This is not a sponsored review, although I am friends with Yamaha, come to think of it. Anyway, if you follow this channel, you know I'm always brutally honest about the gear that I review, and hopefully that's something you appreciate. It means a lot to me. It's super important anyway. So please do subscribe to the channel. That's all I ask in return. It costs me a lot of money, time, and effort to make these videos, so I appreciate it if you subscribe. It's just a click with your mouse. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to me. Thanks in advance. I'll see you next time. Cheerio!